Hello, everybody. Oh, that's not worked. Sorry. First thing I messed up is the ha. Great. I was doing so well, but it didn't work. And now I'm hearing myself backwards. Okay. All right. Sorry for the confusion. It wouldn't be a Spaniard doing a stream if it wasn't slightly scuffed from the get-go, would it? Let me just move these names back into. Oh no. Okay. Oh, hello everybody. Welcome to the Discord Dojo. We are here today with myself, the Filthy Spaniard, Freeze.
Hello.
Hello. Hopefully that's working on a. Let us know, by the way, in the chat if there's any audio issues or anything like that. None not coming through. With Freeze, Normie.
Hello.
Nutella.
Hi.
And Rippy.
Hi.
All right, so everybody, these guys probably need no introduction, but I'm going to give them one anyway because I might as well. Freeze is an educational YouTuber and like the front YouTube source of all knowledge. Normie is one of the best, if not the best, Force player in the game, whose team Goblin Gang won the most recent testing ground tournaments we did on Saturday. Nutella is one of the people who does the TO, organises official tournaments For Honor with myself, and obviously very important on the dojo. And Rippy is another top level NA player top level Dominion player from NA, who is on TKS. Is your team called TKS now still, Rippy, or is it called something new?
I think it's called DKS. I'm not sure. I would assume so. I don't think we changed name as far as I'm aware.
That's such a bad answer.
That is a very bad answer.
Well, I remember you had it like, what was it called? Speed Munchers for a bit?
We'll go with TKS. We'll go with
TKS. Okay, fair enough. All right, so, like, as I said, we're just going to jump pretty much straight into discussing it, but if there's any problems with the stream, it's been a while since I've done a stream, full stop, and specifically from where I am at the moment, which is my new house. Well, not my new house, it's the new house that I'm living in. Well, I guess it's mine. No one's going to come in here and tell me it's not my house. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, you might be a bit too loud. Okay, well, I'll just turn myself down a little bit. That might be a bit better, a bit quieter.
Probably.
Yeah. Anyway, let us know if there's any issues with it, because it's a new setup. Hopefully the internet seems to be working quite nicely, so that's good. Finally got that on, and we're not on mobile anymore like we were during the tournament on Saturday. But yes, let's talk about the testing grounds we just had. So it started on March 21st, last Thursday, and it's just finished yesterday, I guess, because yesterday was the last day of it. And we're now on Thursday. Unfortunately, we couldn't manage to do this podcast whilst the testing grounds was active, so we could demonstrate things live. But that's how it is when you've got testing grounds only lasts for a week, and we did all put it on pretty short notice. So, what was this testing grounds? Well, I'm going to go a quick overview of what the devs told us the testing grounds were about, and and what, if anything, was different to what they told us about. Okay, so they announced the testing grounds on the last Warriors Den at the beginning of the season that it would be, in short, balancing the ganking potential of pinning moves, which we will come to later, was not quite what's happened in the testing ground. But to do that, I guess we're going to quickly go over the hitstun rules. Normally, hitstun, you get hit by one attack. If you get hit by a second attack from a different person, that attack, whilst you're still in hitstun from the first attack, that attack does 25% damage, is 25% damage reduced, so it does 75% damage. And if you get hit by a third attack, that puts you into the second hitstun state, where that attack will do 75% damage, and it will be 75% damage reduced, or only do 25% damage, and then that frees you from you can't get it releases you from any hit stun you were in, and you are immediately able to defend yourself. You get hyper armor as well. So that is the normal hit stun rules, and essentially the stated goal of the testing grounds was to change pinning moves, which are very important in ganking and widely used across the cast and at high level play, to change them to obey these same hit stun rules. So previously, if you were a pinning move, if it hit somebody in second hit stun, it would bounce off or do the same 75% damage reduction. But if it hit you in first hit stun, it would what we called in the community reset hit stun and put you into the pinning state where you took full damage from any other attack that hit you. And that allowed some pretty strong ganks because you could bash to confirm a pinning attack, like let's say it's Shinobi's Sickle Rain, and then you could land another attack on top of that. And often then you'd be able to do another attack to extend the hit stun further to get the pin to a hit again and loop them for as long as you can, often resulting in ganks where you could kill somebody without them getting revenge or almost without them getting revenge, which is probably what was the state of the meta for a long time. Where was I going now? So basically, the TG should have changed that. So pins should be working exactly the same as normal attacks now. If you, let's say, did a Centurion heavy, somebody did a heavy, and then you hit them with the Centurion pinning heavy, not that he was in the testing grounds, you would then, Sickle Rain will hit him with Sickle Rain, then that's going to give the opponent, because you've hit them in hit stun, that means that if they throw a heavy that lands on your Sickle Rain, their heavy will do 25% damage, it will be 75% reduced, because it will count as in second hit stun, because you landed your pinning move on their hit stun. Does that make any sense to everybody? We're all...
Yes.
Anything I've missed out on?
We really shouldn't be explaining the changes much. There'll be the freeze video out soon, and
Yeah.
they can watch that. It'll be much easier with examples than, rambling.
I agree, and that's why I only wanted to give it a very brief overview so we're all on the same page. All right. I guess a quick mention will be that there were only meant to be 10 characters there were only 10 characters in the testing grounds. These ones: Warden, Conk, Yorm, Shigoki, Hitakiri, Shinobi, Jangjun, Janhu, Pirate, and Ocelotl, of which only Conqueror, Warden was not meant to have any changes, and the other ones had their pinning moves changed. And so when we did the tournament, which we did on Saturday, these are the only characters that are allowed to be played. Before we go on to the next thing, I do want to mention that what the devs said was going to be in the testing ground was not all that was in the testing ground. In the live game, bashes do not work the same as regular attacks. If you bash somebody in any form of hit stun, it progresses the hit stun, so it will count as their next. So let's say if you heavy somebody and then your ally bashes them, and then they heavy again, your bash has put them into second hit stun, and so first hit stun, second hit stun, so that their heavy will cause the third hit stun liberation of it will let you out of pin, so it doesn't continue. But the damage reduction from those hit stuns was not applied from bashes. Question from chat: do guard breaks progress hit stuns too? No, they don't, but throws do, and wall splats do. So that was how the live game works. What has also changed in this testing ground, which was not mentioned anywhere in the patch notes, and so we don't know if it was intentional change or was in order to make the testing grounds, the new pinning rules for pins be comparable to bashes, is that now bashes, despite they progress hit stun as normal, but they also apply the damage reduction. So if I bash and then you heavy on my bash, your heavy will do 75% damage. And if you heavy and I bash and then you heavy off my bash, so I bash in your hit stun, your heavy will do 25% damage. So basically this testing ground was stated to be targeting pinning moves only, but in essence it also nerfed all bashes for ganking, and pretty considerably, because I think many players would say that bashes were fine before, maybe, I don't know. But these changes basically double nerfed ganking. They nerfed bashes and they nerfed pins. So we don't know if that part of the testing ground was intentional because it's not mentioned anywhere in these patch notes. They only say that the pinning moves were affected, but in reality, Warden, no additional changes other than the common changes. Well, they don't necessarily say what the common changes were, just that these... Well, I guess maybe that was intended. Like common changes, first hit stun, second hit stun. We just assume that that was the standard of the... Well, okay. Maybe it was common changes. Probably should have read these closer. Anyway. That is a summary of what happened in the testing grounds. Is there anything I've forgotten, you guys, that I should mention before we start?
Hitstun is retained throughout the pinning moves. For example, if a Goki Hug causes 75% damage reduction already on the crunch, maybe. If you add another heavy on that, it is also 75% damage reduced. So that's another big change.
Okay, so it doesn't like put you back to neutral after you don't get I thought that you would break out of it immediately after you get the...
No, you do not.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So basically pinning animations are kept the same. The difference is the damage reduction. And that's basically the only way that the pins are interactive with this. Fair enough. All right, well, in that case, let's jump into the sort of first topic which I wanted to cover after we've done a quick summary of what it was. The testing grounds. Why do this testing grounds? And I'm going to hand it over to my illustrious guests, probably starting with Freeze, because it's just the order of alphabetical order.
Putting me on the spot.
Yeah. Why were these testing grounds considered necessary by the devs? Do you agree with their necessity? And explain yourself.
Yes, I think the pinning specifically needed changing. I think it makes for quite the boring gameplay, both on the receiving as well as the performing end. At least I think that I'm speaking for most that consistently pull off these ganks. That once you're like in the motions and know what you're doing, it's kind of boring, right? You know, oh, now the gank started. Now I'm going to finish that person off. And it's neither very fun being on the receiving end, knowing, oh, that's it. I got hit by one bash. Now I'm dead. So the target being the pins was very much needed. Yes, I fully agree here. And except for the revenge gain, the band-aid fixes we had before, right?
Yeah,
like, with Sickle Rain causing a lot of revenge gain, Pirate's Gunshot. Yeah. Those band-aid fixes still being in the game obviously need to be addressed further, but the gist of it is very much needed, yes. Pinning moves needed to be addressed. And in short, it's the 100-0 ganks that just need to go.
Yeah. Sounds good. Normie, anything to add to that? Or just to reiterate, of course?
Oh my god, Spaniards.
You can just use the opportunity to lay into me as well if you want to. I know I've been talking for like 15 minutes.
No, man. Yeah, I agree with everything Priest said. That's all I'm going to say for now.
Tell me how these changes were necessary or not necessary from perspective of the meta game or the game meta at like a tournament level. Like, were ganks too important at tournament level? Were they too impactful, and so on?
No, that's not at all the reason. The whole thing is that the ganks were just too easy to do or too strong, and there was no counterplay. It's not that they're too impactful or they're too in a certain way.
Okay, well, that's a really important distinction to make in that case. That you don't think that ganking as a concept is too important in the top level play, in the top level game, but the individual ganks, which were very powerful, were too powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction to make, because a lot of players looking at this TG might think they were trying to the devs were trying to nerf ganking as a whole, Whereas for comp players, Rippy, would you agree on this? That
Yeah, something. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's
I
right.
do
I brought you in
apologize.
before I carried on. So yeah.
Yeah, but something I was about to say is you want to consider how rewarding the pushes are right now, and how rewarding this just hold mid and push like either a home point or like whatever point the enemy has. So they generate no score at all while you're on their point, and you generate a lot of point because you hold mid. So to counter that, you need to be able to have strong ganks. So it's like it's not as much as the ganks overall. You don't want to have them too weak, you know, because if I know that I'm gonna get venge from only eating half my health bar, I will always decide to just eat half my health bar and then have the other half to stall with revenge. So you need ganks to be strong enough to at least make them wanna throw something and then just have the freestyle. So it's to find that in between window where the ganks aren't so strong that you get one shot and you can't do anything, but not weak enough that you just get to push and never get punished. Because I don't feel like you want to like start just taking 1v1s in Dominion. It's like a team mode. Ganking should still be important in there, obviously.
Okay. Nutella, have you got anything to add to this little topic before we?
Yeah. So while we're talking about ganking being important and such, it also begs the question of if we didn't have a TG to do system changes, we'd probably end up with more band-aid changes like Shinobi at 60, Revenge, Sickle Rain, which doesn't feel good to play with or get hit by still. So yeah, we still do need these changes, but as Rippy said, we need that middle ground because as it stands right now, this TG has been a bit too much on the kill ganking side.
Yeah, so you'd say it overcorrects.
Yeah,
Fair.
it's overcorrecting very harshly.
Okay. Well, I think I'd agree with everything from that. I don't think I really have a huge amount to add as to why we need this testing ground. Other than I would also want to say that I think we do need there to be system level changes of the game in general, and for I'm glad that there are testing grounds to test wide-ranging changes in the game, because whilst ganking is obviously the thing we're talking about right now, there are other issues that the game has, and it would be a shame to see these wide-ranging changes, which are beneficial or could be beneficial if they're done right, scrapped entirely. Like I'm thinking about the guard break vulnerability testing grounds, which had many really good changes, but had some really bad changes in it as well. And instead of following through with that, they were just cancelled. And I don't know if I'm alone in thinking that the core of the game needs to have alterations, but I don't want to see testing grounds reduced to just seeing previews of reworks. So that's something that I would like to add to that, I guess. Right, I'm going to put on the just a VOD of the tournament gameplay, so we have some footage of what the testing grounds actually look like. For anybody who doesn't know, we ran a tournament on Saturday with where teams can actually test the TG changes in a competitive environment, and of course it looked very different, the gameplay. But I would like to ask what you guys think were the good aspects of how different the game played in the testing grounds tournament that we had, or just in general testing grounds. I'll start off with Normie, because obviously he's the from the player who won that tournament, and therefore has the definitely
Good aspects. Good aspects of it. There's just one good aspect about it, and that's the direction it's going in. It's really promising. There's lots of things that can end up being really good, and just, I don't know, it's just going in a really good direction, even though it played kind of really bad. But at the same time, it's the first time people are playing the TG, and I know the TG's been out for 2 weeks, but nobody plays the TG because they don't make it double XP.
Well, it wasn't even 2 weeks. It was only 1 week, unfortunately.
But either way, however long it could have been, 6 years, people don't want to play TG. That's just how it is. But finally getting some time to play in a competitive environment, it's definitely good. There's no longer that very bad feeling when you're getting ganked. But at the same time, it's just a start. This is just like the idea. This TG is the idea, and everything else to come is the important part.
Yeah. Specifically, do you think that... So, it's obviously difficult to break down what things were good in this TG versus the things that were because you break down individual aspects as a whole when you're only experiencing as a whole. But do you think that, for example, the way that pinning moves were behaving as like following the normal hitstun rules, do you think that was a good concept, or do you think pinning moves should not follow the normal hitstun rules?
I'm not gonna lie, we never look at pinning moves as like its own thing at this point. Like, what are you trying to say here?
Oh, okay. Just like I'm trying to break down the individual changes from the testing ground, and so we had like the damage reduction, which seemed to be applying to everything. The fact that pinning moves couldn't, they had to have much more specific timing to confirm them, and they would have like you couldn't land a pin off first hit stun, for example. It would just essentially not work like that. Or
Yeah,
not
there's
work.
no issue with that.
Okay. The damage reduction, do you think that was okay or not good?
No, there's too much damage reduction. I've already said this in the interview. There's too much. This whole thing is actually just really simple. There's like almost nothing to discuss. If you excuse my interjection, but there's nothing to say. There's too much damage reduction currently. The ganking is fine. The fact that there's no more hitstun reset is fine. They need to make it just balance it a bit more, like Rippy said. Find the good spot in between, right? In between what we have in TG and what we have in live, in terms of how ganks work, as in damage, revenge feed. And that's it.
Okay. Well,
There's nothing else. There is nothing else.
You think reduction back to normal revenge feeding, like the gunshot, just make it a normal bash to the 30 and not the whatever 60 it was on pirate. You think that's enough, or do they need to look at basically every single move now that further confirms stuff?
I think this is where blanket changes need to happen, right? Like right here. This is where stuff has to be reduced. Imagine a CCU, picture a CCU for this, right? A CCU where all the ganks no longer deal as much damage. We reduce that. All the ganks no longer feel so much revenge. We reduce that. Reduce the revenge damage buff. All of that, just reduce all of it. Just tinker with it. One gets buffed, one gets nerfed. Find the perfect place and then just do that.
And you look at them individually rather than just saying that should be the rule.
There is no argument to be made about what is good and what is bad. It's just, we know what we need. We need the ganks to be less powerful. And then off of that, obviously we can't have ganks that are not powerful and feed 1 million orange. It's very simple. I don't know how else to say it.
Fair enough.
Value
Well,
would
if I
you...
can give an example to what you just said, like if you take Shinobi Kick, for example, like I think it's problematic right now in the game, in which the char can already kind of do everything, and then you get ganked, you get hit by a 3 kick, you lose all your health, and I find it very problematic. But then you take a char like Ocelotl, which is full 1v1 in ganking, and you have, like in that SDG at least, like he has about the same gank, like his spin doesn't really work to initiate gank, at least a lot harder to get if it's still possible. Like I think
we have a 100 to 1 gank with Ocelotl and JJ. It works the same way. It's the same.
Yeah, it works the same way. So I guess I didn't test that one enough. With his spin or with his bash?
With his bash, with his all of his bashes.
But like the pin, I couldn't get anything with the pin.
Well, yeah, that's just like that pin, pirate gunshot, shinobi kick.
Yeah.
Those are just gonna be useless. Those moves are just gonna be removed, like completely unusable unless you're in one.
Right? That kind of agreeing with you in which like you can't balance Ocelotl and Shinobi the same because Ocelotl is meant to be a ganker and a 1v1er, and Shin can also.
But this is not what we want to look at. You don't want to look at stuff individually right now because we're not trying to rework ganks for each character. We're reworking ganks as a whole and how the system works, right? The character could do anything. We just want it changed. I think this is like the moment to make a blanket change that will fix 95% of ganks, and then after that's done, go over to the ones that became problematic after the update and fix those. Like do this blanket change and then go and change pirate, go and change also to go and change Bob. It's like 3 characters, maybe 1 or 2 moves in every other character's kit for like what 5 changes in total, but now it works.
Is it fixable on Ocelotl even? Because I
I
think the
have no
gank works
clue.
because it always hits the 166 window, right?
It is-
That's the reason.
Fixable, like if we're talking about that gang being too strong even afterwards, it's definitely just fixable with chain link timings and what
Yeah,
else.
exactly,
But
yeah.
like it's I don't know.
Yeah, because it's so easy to hit the 166 window on his chain bash, right? And isn't that the reason?
Yeah, I'd
Well,
say that.
no, I mean it's
Yeah, that is
they're
the
more
reason.
so on the Jar Jar for what we saw at least,
So
like the
just
JJS time stuff.
just a very quick explanation for this, in case anybody's following along. We mentioned the 166 timing or the 100 millisecond timing. This is referring to the times after hitstun, before you can defend yourself properly from an incoming bash or an incoming unblockable, because both parries and dodge iframes have startups, and so you can, even with all these changes to nerf ganks in particular, and pinning moves preventing them looping back from one another, there will still always be some ganks where you will be technically freed from hitstun, but they can be confirmed with like very tight timing, or pretty tight timing anyway.
Yeah, but
And-
I think that's the reason why Normie mentioned it, right? Because in Ocelotl's case, it's easy to perform just because it always hits that specific window.
Yes.
So even if it's hard for a lot of other characters to keep confirming, if there's a character or a gank with a character that just makes it as easy as it is now, just by pressing the buttons on buffer timing or whatever.
Yeah.
But that is something, like Normie mentioned, needs to be looked afterwards. After the blanket changes, like he mentioned, fixed most of it. So yeah, I fully agree with him there. That is a very valid approach here.
Okay, sounds good to me. I just want to, like, I guess we're still trying to focus on the positive things of the changes so far. Like, if Nutella or Rippy have anything extra to add to that, or we just basically all thumbs up on the whole concept of changing the power of ganks.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it's about, as Normie said, like too much damage reduction, like in the way it's intended, because at least on a Shinobi and Pirate as well, there's some like I'll call it trickery things you can do to still get pretty much just as much damage as current game, but it makes like it's also harder to pull off and stuff. But in the idea of the TG, to get that damage reduction, it's too much damage reduction for sure.
Would we need a different value than the 75?
Yes,
100%.
What
We
value
also
should
need
it
to
be?
change how we get revenge.
35, 40.
35.
Oh, you'd even increase the first one. Interesting.
No, what?
Because
No,
First
I
one's
mean
25,
like
second
I meant
one's
that should be the third value.
there are
35
only
to
two
40.
values. There's
No, he's saying the third should be in the range of 35 to 40.
Oh, I
Okay.
see.
Fair, fair, fair,
Okay, all right. I guess the question for that would be, I mean, it's not really relevant at high levels, but when you have lots of heavies landing at the same time, which does happen, I guess, and when you're being ganked with three people instead of 2 people, they can easily land heavies at the same time, and that might cause problems potentially if the
Well, after third hitstun, realistically, you're able to defend yourself, unless they're landing in the perfect window, which they're not because you're smashing heavy. So
Yeah, and if
that's
Worst
on
comes
you
to
entirely
worst-
for playing wrong.
Yeah. Worst comes to worst, you can always just increase the third tag multiplier.
yes, that's true. Yeah, because really
Not for revenge number.
Yeah. Just the 0.8, make it like, I don't know, 0.5.
What's the point of that?
0.85.
What is the point of that?
Yep, I think revenge needs to go down, actually, not up. Should
Well, I guess we're
be
talking about-
equal. It should be equal to how much like damage you're dealing or would be dealing.
there's still, sorry, that was my
Yeah,
that's Noodle.
It's just the Jumanji ganks, right? Just hitting everything perfectly by a random chance that you see at lower levels just to combat that, which shouldn't affect higher levels much. unless I'm
doesn't happen.
mistaken. You.
This is just another thing that people have the impression is happening. That doesn't actually happen.
No, at low levels happens a bunch. People.
No, at low level, people aren't getting ganked by accident. They just have no clue what they're doing, so
Yes,
they don't know
it's-
what to parry and what to block.
I
Yeah,
agree. I
exactly.
agree. But some of them are also like when you see clips of like all four characters and all heavies are landing at the same time, which does sometimes happen. Then
Okay, then what?
well, they obviously.
What about it?
I don't think you can fix someone
Yeah.
being bad at the game by making the game worse.
I also don't think
That's
you
not
can give.
what I meant.
I don't think you can give 4v1ing as an argument here. When in a 4v1, somebody will die regardless of anything.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was just talking about as if we are like looking at reducing the overall damage reduction, then that is something that needs to, I guess. Well, it's certainly something that the devs would consider, and obviously, if it's something that causes lots of feedback from casual players, then it's going to be always an issue. When you mentioned the revenge modifiers that Freeze was saying, there are actually. There's not just there's the revenge modifier on how much damage an attack does, which is affected by the damage reduction. In that it's always the same, even though attacks can get damage buffed or damage nerfed. But there is also an additional multiplier for how much you're outnumbered, which Freeze is right. If you were to reduce the amount of damage reduction on the second hit stun in order to make the ganking work better in a 2v1 environment, you can compensate for how we would change the 3v1 environment by making the 3v1 revenge modifier greater, because that wouldn't affect proper ganks, but it would compensate for making ganks work stronger in a 3v1, for example. Yeah, I think so. Because if
Wouldn't
you
it actually
overtly- it
even
would
be
overtly-
better because you're allowed to finish somebody off with somebody adding the third tag, just because you do more damage and might even kill somebody off, and it's not I just did 6 damage for whatever reason and now I've had full revenge. But if you do the 15, might actually be worth it to even add damage to somebody as a third person. Or
I mean, it
in
might
the
be,
gank.
yeah. If you're
I
doing,
I'm saying it might have a positive effect.
Just if you're gonna increase the revenge number, you're gonna make bashes do even more revenge. Right now, 30 revenge. Well, people are
Yeah,
just
but you're
trying
not
to
adding
bash.
a bash as a third person. That's nonsense. If you do that,
Well,
you deserve
obviously
it.
not. But like, if you're upping for the sake of someone getting bullied by 1v3, 1v2, more revenge, you're adding more revenge multiplier. You're just making bashes even more obnoxious. Like, I don't see why you're doing that.
obnoxious from a like.
From they're feeding even more revenge in a point where people are choosing not to bash and just stare at each other in the tournament, as we saw.
Yeah.
Which is
But
why
they're already doing that, aren't they? Who the fuck adds a third tag in Tony's?
I mean, no,
Like
we're
on
not talking about
purpose.
adding a third tag. The second tag, even the person's not throwing a bash anymore. That's how it was in the tournament. If you're watching, and you are even.
Yeah, but we're
commentating
not
on
increasing that one. We're increasing the one that comes from the third tag. Like the second one has the 0.6 multiplier. We're keeping that. But if a third tag is added, that's the 0.8 right now. So we can just increase that one. But with less damage reduction, it allows to actually add the third tag to finish somebody off. But at lower level, it just if you bash it as a third tag at low level, then yeah, come
It
on,
would add
go
shitloads of revenge, yeah.
go feed more revenge because you deserve that. I think it will have actually a positive
Yeah,
effect
but
on
by that
both ends,
logic,
right?
you're just gonna have
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
that's the same logic but inverted. Instead of someone dies to stupid Yankees, they won't ever die. Period.
Yeah, also,
Definitely.
like, what's the point? You're doing a 3v1. The whole point of the 3v1 is, you can kill somebody easily, or you can feed venge easily. Right?
Yeah,
Why
just
does
both.
this have to change? That's how it is in live as well.
Yeah, but what you're proposing for is to make it much, much, much defensive sided at the point, to the point where in a TG where Gank's already weaker, you're now giving even more revenge for it.
No, we're
So-
he's not.
No,
proposing
we're
that.
compensating for the less damage reduction that we
Yeah.
suggested.
So we're saying if they change third hit stun, or second hit stun damage reduction from 75% reduction to 40, for example, then that's going to make ganking in a 3v1 ganking much more powerful, because it's much easier to add that damage in those scenarios. That's probably where most players will experience that in the live game currently. And so then to compensate for that, change the 3v1 modifier, which basically would maybe undo some of that.
I think you're tweaking because you're not thinking about the numbers and like how much orange that means and how much revenge that means. They would get orange and they would not die. Like adding another how much damage, like a light's worth of damage on top of that, for the same amount of revenge from a 2v1 to a 3v1 is not worth it in any scenario.
Okay.
Yeah, but when are you adding a tag?
Never.
Anyways. But now you're allowed to because you do more damage to finish somebody off.
Yeah, but you still don't want to.
Why not? He's dead.
That's
By adding that.
1 of 10.
When if
and
he's
that's
already dead, then he's dead regardless of more revenge.
No, he's saying that let's say you're in a 2v1 type scenario, and let's say the person is you've landed a guard break, and the person is at 50 health, and you as an ally, first person throws a heavy, the second person throws another heavy that is 25% damage reduced. The guy is now at 10 health. You could, as a third player, throw your heavy as well, and because it's only going to be 40% reduced rather than
Yeah, but
75%.
he's dead regardless.
that's the point. That's the point. That's
What I
like the
just said,
whole
he's
point.
dead regardless.
No, because
Revenge only matters when it fills
Yes.
up. If he has 10 HP, he's dead regardless. It doesn't matter.
Yes. So then that would allow you to do that in a comp setting, and in a random setting where people are throwing third tags all the time. Then it wouldn't. It basically is one of these things that wouldn't affect top level play, because the only time you'd ever use it is if you're going to be getting the kill from it, and it would affect low level play in a beneficial way for them.
No,
well,
it's just in your head.
Yes.
It's just
No.
your impression. Because if he's dying from that, he will die anyways, right? And if he's
Yeah,
not
but I'm
dying from
talking
that,
about-
he would get orange anyways. It's the change that doesn't change anything.
Okay.
Yeah, in current front of that.
No, I disagree with that.
I mean, I'm with Frizz on this, but let's move on to it, because I don't want to focus on that all much. We have been talking about I kind of wanted to mention, like, go from like talk about the bad things versus we talk about the good things and talk about the bad things, but we've kind of like skipped on to talking about what we think should be done to alter the bad things. But first, I am going to mention what are your thoughts about the current amount of revenge feed based on like the damage is done. So one of the things I know, Normie, you've mentioned is saying that revenge feed should not be proportional to the base damage. It should be proportional to the amount of damage which is actually dealt to the player. So currently we're getting like a double whammy nerf, and that attacks are doing 25% of the damage, but they're still doing full revenge. Do you think that it should be doing full revenge, or should be doing 25% revenge, or 50% revenge, or what kind of thing like that?
It shouldn't do a percent of revenge. It should just do something tied to like the actual number, like as in the exact same number. Because what we want to do is we don't want to make ganks harder or easier to do. Well, actually, we want to make them slightly harder, but that's not the aim of this thing. The thing is that you don't want to die from one gank. Because if you die from one gank, you have no chance to use revenge. If you die from two ganks, then automatically everything is much different, because then you have counterplay, you have using revenge properly, you have like actual mechanics and things that require skill. So automatically, if the first gank gets you, I don't know, half or like a third, that's good. That's why I think it should be proportional to the damage dealt, so that no matter what's happening to me, what I'm getting hit by 7 nukes or the 1v4, if I take 100 damage, I'll have 100 orange.
Yep, sounds good to me. Any objections to the concept of making revenge be based on the actual damage done rather than base damage?
No, other than a slight look has to be done at what happens to things like Fury, but those overpower
Exactly,
their
yeah.
feats anyways.
Yeah, so
Because
potentially
it
it's
would
actually...
would nerf all the damage buff feeds quite significantly.
and
Yeah,
the damage reduction
To be
feats.
fair, they are quite literally just free, unlike any other feat where you can have bad effects out of them.
Oh yeah,
I
I'm
think
not saying
that's a
I'm against
different
it.
topic.
I'm just
I think that's
Yeah.
a different topic. Of first place
extensive
and
one.
second place, I think it's fine either way. Low key, it's fine either way, even if they are affected or if they're not affected. Because if they're affected, then that's fine. Now, attack buff feats have like a downside, and you
Yeah.
actually have to use your brain when using them. And if they don't, then that's fine because it's a feat, and that's what feats do. They make you stronger, right? So, and if feats get nerfed, then they're all getting nerfed across the board. So it's gonna be fine again, anyways.
Okay, good. So yeah, we think it's making revenge proportional to damage would be a good thing, just by every metric, basically. And the side effects don't seem to be particularly problematic.
It's hard to say without getting to play extensively with it, but on off like just the first thoughts and like just judging it from our perspective right now, that is like the best thing you could do.
Okay. Something I want to ask about is, so in this testing ground, we saw that, I mean, again, we don't fully know if it was intentional because they didn't really specifically mention it. We saw that bashes were following the normal hitstun rules in that they counted as an attack for the purposes of damage reduction as well as hitstun resetting. So things like people were saying the bash confirms were dead in the testing grounds because you, even just doing a regular bash, not a pinning one, you're still going to be causing 75% or 25% damage reduction. Do you think that is, like, with the additional changes of, let's say, removing revenge or reducing the total amount of damage reduction and making revenge proportional to the actual damage you dealt, do you think that the way that bashes were adding to damage reduction is fine, or do you think that would be a problem as well?
It's not
Well,
fun.
I think that would be fun. I wouldn't have a problem
think
with it
so?
if the revenge was, because that's
Yeah,
the thing
if-
right now, right? You confirm a damage heavy that's reduced, and you still feed it on revenge. But if the revenge is adjusted, I don't personally would have a problem with that. I think
exactly.
that'd be good.
If Venge gets adjusted the way it should be, then that doesn't matter as much, considering that the Venge is getting adjusted as well, and then assuming that we have the orange fed equals damage dealt as well, that will not be a problem at all.
Okay.
It also make team fights a lot more like breathable, I guess. Honestly, like you'd feel a lot less suffocated because you don't lose your entire health for a single mistake. So that'd
Yeah.
help with that as well.
Because that is affecting, as you mentioned, it was a very good point you mentioned there, that the damage reduction changes don't just affect revenge, because you can have these hit-stun interactions in a team fight where you have equal number of tags and you're not going to get any revenge from it. So this would also change how, I mean, this testing round, as well as changing ganking, did alter team fights, because a lot of team fights would, do you think they were lasting too long, or do you think it was fine?
That's never been talked about, and it never will be in this as an argument. Team fights have nothing to do with this.
Well, no, it does, because if you confirm a heavy off of an ally's bash and it does less damage, that is that can happen in team fights, and even if the person doesn't get revenge, you're still doing 75% of the damage you were going to do.
Yeah, but that's not like a thing. Like in team fights, most of the damage, like 90% of the damage dealt, is not in like a gank scenario where somebody's confirming it.
Okay, so it's really not particularly important for that in that case.
It's like almost a non-factor in team fights. Not completely, but almost. The impact it has on team fights is minimal.
All right.
I'll throw mine out then, because I like the distinction between bashing into a hitstun and not bashing into a hitstun. You know, the difference of the 25 or
Yeah.
75%.
Yes,
So,
because I guess
I don't like that you get the full 75 damage reduction. Oh, hang on, no, other way around. The full 75 damage percent reduction is fine, in my opinion. If you just randomly bash and hit somebody in hitstun, you should continue it. You should suffer the damage reduction.
Okay.
But I disagree with the 25 on just every normal bash. That just gets hit randomly.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
wanted to mention with regards to the way that they change these hit stun, because of course you only start stacking when it's damage from a different source. So if you bash somebody and then your ally heavies, that is strictly worse than bashing someone, you do your punish, and then your ally does a heavy off that as well. Because their heavy is going to do 25% reduction, even if you've not hit them before, even if you've hit them before or not. So if I bash light, heavy is basically exactly the same as bash for my ally heavy, which I think does feel backwards. Yeah, that's my mention of that. So any adding to that before I move on to the next thing?
You're waffling.
Waffling. Okay, well that's good. I'll move on to the next thing. Block stun versus hit stun. This is something that was noted in, I think, well, Freezer's definitely going to be mentioning it in his video. And
No, I'm not.
Oh, all right. Well, fair enough.
Because I didn't get it to work the way I thought it would, and we did not have enough time or muse to do it, I guess.
Okay, fair enough.
So I don't think, to be honest, I don't think that was the difference. We could hit some confirm the same way as blockstun
So you think
from our last testing. So
Okay.
that, I don't know, maybe something changed
Wait,
from
what
when we
are
last played this.
you saying?
Can
I
you
was saying-
elaborate?
I remember
There was
me.
no confirming looping Goki hugs. We did not manage to get it a different value out of it.
If you're trying to
Whether you
figure
got
out
hit
how
or
it
not.
works, I'll tell you how it works right now. If they get hit by the hug while they're in blockstun, they will take full damage. If you confirm with light and they eat the light, the hug will deal damage reduced damage.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
but
I-
you confirm it either way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, but the damage
It's-
reduction. It's currently worse to block a light that confirms a pinning move than
No,
it
you
is.
want to get hit by the light right now.
Yeah. So sorry, I meant as a ganking perspective. All right, sorry if I made that confusing. Yeah, it's better to get hit by something than it is to block or parry it, because then that means that the thing that that's confirmed off your hit stun is gonna do less damage, and that's normally enough to compensate for the damage of a single light attack. So I certainly
Yes.
think that should be changed, and that
That's an
the
easy fix. That's an easy fix.
block stun.
That's again an easy fix because that's only a thing with 2 moves that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yep.
And that's hug,
Magi grab.
Goki hug, and magic grab. And if those 2 should be changed individually to not work like that, and everything will be fine. This is what I mean. We do blanket change, and after blanket change, we fill in the holes.
Okay. I mean, I don't think it's just those moves, because it does mean that literally any pinning move is better to get hit by a thing than block stun for a thing. So obviously it only affects those bashes in particular, but there are other.
Yeah, because if it's not a bash, then it doesn't matter. Because if you block one, you block the other.
Yeah, well,
if
if it's
it's
an
not a-
unblockable, for example, if I
You
were
block
to,
and parry. You can block and parry. It doesn't.
yeah, you can, but it's still better to. I guess so. Things like bite, any pinning. There are actually a shitload of pinning bashes.
Like George
Yeah,
Dash,
might as
etc.
well,
All
yeah,
that
sure.
works if you heavy light. Yeah, sure. Yeah, blocking light is a weird one, and yeah,
I think we just basically need to ensure that the block stun follows the same rules as hit stun, so that it's not more beneficial to get hit by an attack than block attacking or parry
No.
attacking.
If we do that,
that'll make team fights actually
That'll-
feel bad.
Yeah,
if
that'll
you
make
are-
teammates
yeah.
unplayable. Absolutely unplayable. If that's the
So
thing.
while you were trying to insinuate that with the hit stun changes, with block stun changes, that change your team fights play drastically.
Okay, so what is the? You think the solution is to just, on an individual basis, on pinning bashes, to make it so that
Yes.
they. All right. Okay.
No
So-
comment. Yes. There's nothing else to say about it, to be honest.
All right. Other things that you'd like to see. I'm a little bit tired, so forgive. And I have a tendency to waffle when I'm tired. Or just full stop. Actually, other things, other topics. We've mentioned the block stun issue. There was another one I wanted to mention. I've now forgotten it. Oh well. Anything to add whilst I'm struggling to think of what's the other thing I had to think about?
I told you there's not much to talk about Spaniard.
Oh, I remember what it was. Okay. The base damage, the base revenge feed of bashes. That is something that I think is worth mentioning. So currently, bashes feed 30 revenge as their base damage. They feed the same amount of revenge as a 30 damage heavy, and I guess there's some logic to that when the game came out, because if you bash somebody, you were going to confirm a full 30 damage heavy from an ally, or most heavies did 30 damage, or at least in the pre-CCU days. Do we think that the base damage of bashes is too high, given, especially with the TG, that they're always going to be confirming at least 25% damage reduction, and also it's going to be at least 25% damage reduction on a lower base damage anyway. So even if you could bash and it's going to confirm a finisher heavy, that finisher heavy is going to do 21 damage, and it's going to be feeding 50 revenge from the 21 damage from that plus the bash, basically, even if we're doing proportional. Do we think that's still too high revenge, or do you think that is something that we can't tell yet, or what?
I can reformulate what you said, if it's easier. Yes, if revenge gets reduced across the board, then bashes get reduced as well. And yes, that's what needs to be done. That's it. Just change bashes from 30 orange to like 10, 15.
Okay.
50, I don't know. It's either 10, 15, somewhere around there. Haven't even did the math to figure out what's the best value, but that's all you have to do. Yes.
Sounds good to me. GBs, should they be the same? Considering that they are going to be feeding, they don't trigger the hitstun rules, and you can confirm full damage with them.
Not necessarily. Because like you said, you can confirm full damage with them, which is the point, right? So if you can confirm 30 damage, then it should feed more revenge, but I still think that 30 is too much. But like 25, just like a minor decrease would be fine for GBs.
Also, it depends what you're confirming. Like most bash confirms when done properly, you don't have much you can do against it. But if you're GBing for an unblockable, at least you can at least early parry and make a read. So I guess also depends what situation we're talking.
Okay.
It's also easier for GBs to bounce, right?
Yes.
Bash can't bounce. GB can.
Yeah, that's
It's true. Although
That's what he was saying. Yeah, that there's counterplay to garbage.
yeah, something that I think is relevant to this, the GBs when they bounce, or rather if you mistime it so they counter guard break, they feed the 75. They basically put you in counter guard break damage reduction, which is 75% as well. So currently GBs are essentially on the same kind of strict timing as timing a bash to hit that dodge startup window, because it's their equivalent, roughly equivalent timings. So whilst you could still confirm full damage with a bash, you could still confirm full damage with a GB. It's just going to be, instead of a GB failing to do it at all, you're going to do the same thing with a bash, because it will also fail to do it at all, because we get damage. You'll hit the damage reduction.
Non-talking point. They are used in very different scenarios, and they function differently. They're fine the way they work now, and that's it.
All right.
Yeah, because GBs are also faster than a bash, 300, 500 versus 400, etc. There's a lot of factors to consider.
There's a lot of arguments to be made about it, but the end thing is, it's fine the way it is. Please don't change it. Don't make it worse, please. Thank you.
All right. Fair enough. Do you think it's a problem in general to have high damage reduction, even if, let's say, it feeds low revenge, because the revenge is proportional to actual damage dealt? Do you think it is problematic? It is problematic.
Just straight up, it's a problem. You'll have fights lasting way longer, ganks lasting longer, stalling being more prevalent, to the point where you're just going to run to the enemy home point and sit there because they can't take you off.
Wink, wink, another consequence of the minion rework. Wink.
Yeah.
Smile, wink, cry emoji. And sob. Full sob.
Okay. Like, I'm not sure if we're really much else to go over. The only thing I wanted to mention is, like, have any suggestions about the whole process of doing testing grounds? I know we've mentioned several times that they should have double XP on them all the time, so that people actually play them. Do you have any other suggestions or feedback on the process?
Well, the
I
one thing
mean,
I'll say, I don't think for this TG specifically, at least, I can't say for like all TGs and character TGs and stuff, but for something as big as game changes, I think a week is not a lot of time, to accurately test something. I feel like even if people wanted to play scrims and test, like a week's not a huge amount of time to set up stuff and really test the changes. So I think once major changes like that, you could get some value out of like longer TGs.
Sounds good to me.
Use them as they're often using them as the marketing tool. But if you really, like in this one, you want data, you want people to play it. So add something everybody wants to see. Add I don't know, the Lawbringer rework.
literally add anything. Add
Yeah,
literally
just put,
give it rewards, give it cosmetic rewards, give it the realistic color palette, give it that, give it armor, give it something, anything to make people play. Because right now the sample size of like data gathered from DG is like a handful of people, Lomao. So
yeah. You need to incite. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
People do it.
Yeah.
Because, they just won't do it. Like
And-
most don't even know TGs are happening. You need to just give them rewards. Or just throw something shiny in the ring that they just can't refuse. Not even rewards, just something they want to test, because most people don't want to test ganking, right?
9 out of 10 players will not play TG because they don't even have any clue what's in the TG. They have no clue what, like, if it's good, if it's bad. Nobody plays it because why would I play it, right? Less people play TG than live, and it's the same thing. Why would I play TG? And well, yeah, that's how it is. Only the people who actually care are playing it, and I don't know. It's just really bad this way.
Yeah, because you don't need to test, but it's enough to be a body to test on, right?
Yeah.
So as long as people play,
Yeah,
it's fine.
exactly. Like the data is still gonna be there even if they're playing for a color instead of the TG.
Like
Yeah.
people love their color palette and their exclusive rewards and
While
their
you're
XP.
while you're all saying we need more people as well, we also need TGs to stop being a thing, which is just here, look at it, it'll be there next season. Because all TGs kind of fell into that trap, dodge changes, etc. Where then we had to get like a patch after to make like faintable ones, heavy parries instead. We kind of need TGs, system changes to be genuine TGs and not here you go. This is what's going to come out next season.
Yeah,
Maybe
no
one
previews.
change in mind. And then on top of that, limiting characters. I get it when it comes to a TG like this, it's hard work, and if it doesn't come through, it's a little waste of time. But you can't limit characters this hard because, you want people to play on it. It's not my main. Why would I play on it? I don't want to just play Warden or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it leads on to another thing, which I guess is last little bit I wanted to mention, is what you said about having testing grounds being genuine tests rather than just, this is what's going to happen. You're checking for bugs in what we want as the devs. And you've basically answered it already, but you want to have...
Yeah.
Yeah,
They need to
it's
be way
better
more susceptible to feedback.
yeah. And
they-
having a long time between, and obviously that requires them having a long time between doing testing grounds, because they have to put the testing grounds, they have to make them in advance, and then they have to actually get the feedback, and then they have to do that in advance. It's probably going to be the turnaround that we've seen of testing ground changes, which are like it happens, and then you get the changes arrive one season or a season and a half later. That's not going to be possible for testing grounds, which
And then they gotta hotfix some stuff as well. Is like the thing that should have been done before the release, on the TG doesn't get done. So then there's need to be like hotfixes and stuff. I'm thinking like bash changes being like pre-dodgeable, like bash changes are up. People were like pre-dodging and shit, and then they patched it pretty quickly. But it's like everyone knew that was coming, So
Yeah. And that
Should have
that
been
was
done
clearly an
before
issue
release day.
because of their turnaround times. They must have been essentially
Yep.
putting the testing ground changes in before they'd gone the testing ground data back. And I guess as a player base, we have to be more understanding of a slower turnaround time if we are going to expect that kind of thing.
No, we don't. What?
Well, no, they literally can't change if they need time to change things, right? So we can't.
If they
expect
need time to
Yeah, they
change
should just
things,
take
then
that
they
time,
should not just that. They should be again releasing these slower, but they should also have a pre-stage where they test the stuff out earlier. There's stuff where you don't even need to play it to understand that was bad or this probably shouldn't be the case, etc. Tiandi bash change, how his forward dodge bash is different from everyone else's because he has other tools, dodge forward light and dodge forward heavy, which made it confirmed. So you need a stage as well where people can give you the most obvious feedback before it goes live, and then you have to just sit there. Oh yeah, data's polluted because Shinobi's ranged attack wall splats, and it's like no one can understand what's going on here anymore.
Yeah, this is not something that can be discussed between who's doing what and what's good and what's bad. This is solely on them, and this is just their issue that they need to fix.
yeah,
We are here to test shit, and we are here to give feedback. And the people who know how to give good feedback will give you that feedback before the updates even out, right? Because we know how the game works. But if we don't get given a chance to give that feedback so it makes a difference, then why make TGs just release the shit into live and GG?
yeah. Okay.
Adding on to that as well, release the TG onto live. They basically do that with all the hotfixes and changes, and it makes it impossible to then tell them, actually, these changes they made were good or they were garbage and shouldn't have been done to begin with. We have quite a lot of hero rebalances where that happens. Hell, we had Conk, which had 2 rounds, and then they were just like, just send it in, and we got a mismatch of probably the most unpopular features of both TGs.
Yeah.
And
it's weird.
this also causes their feedback to just be like so much worse, like inflated in a bad way, because everybody knows the bad thing is coming to life, so that it comes to life, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, the bad thing came to life." It just makes the feedback seem so much worse than it really is, and well, that's a pretty big problem.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we
a,
want the feedback to be heard on the one hand, but it needs to be quick.
no. I
That's
think what,
fine.
Yes.
yeah, what Normie says is like an absolutely excellent point. A really good point, Normie. Yes, you're right. When it comes to expecting feedback to be proportional to the actual changes, you're going to get hysteria if people are panicking about the bad thing happening. Yeah, absolutely correct. Couldn't agree more with you. And so if the devs are thinking, "Oh shit, the feedback is really really bad. We got to scrap this." Well, yeah, it might only be that because we players have an expectation that bad things are going to happen without screaming about it, basically. All right.
Yeah.
I haven't got anything else left to say, and you're probably all very thankful for that. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to let you guys say anything else you want to say before I wrap it up.
As I said before, there really needs to be a private testing stage. I don't care who's in it, it just has to happen. You need the obvious stuff balanced out, you need the stuff the good players can tell you, and then you can release it to the public and they can give you, oh, I like this, oh, I dislike this, etc. Because as it stands right now, TG is very unfeasible. And you're just kind of showing people, here's the upcoming changes, you will like them. Otherwise, we will delete them if all of you don't like them. But otherwise, if it's like an 80% like them, it's coming to life. Dodge changes, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, what Nutella said also makes it easier to use it as the marketing tool on top of being a testing thing. You get data and you get to showcase something that's more polished than what we sometimes get.
And you get plus rep because you're a company that releases stuff for your community to test and it takes feedback into account. Surely. Nice, right? Yeah.
Yep. Rippy,
Yep.
anything for you before we finish it off?
No, I actually agree with what Nutella said. I think that'd be a big step, big step forward.
Great. Well, thank you guys very much for coming along to this, putting up with my nonsense and waffling. Thank you everybody for watching. This VOD will go live on, we'll put it on YouTube so you can catch up later. I'm just going to quickly, before we finish off, just scroll through the chat, see if there's any questions which I can answer in one sentence. Or maybe, yeah, okay, I've been looking and I haven't noticed other than really nothing, but okay. Well, that's good to know, good to see. I remembered one thing extra, but I'm not going to mention it because we're all tired and you're all bored of me. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Remember to fill in the testing ground feedback survey if it's still up. I think it still will be. And yeah, take care. See you all soon. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Farewell.
Yes.